The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.
Welcome. I'm Riley Karsh.
I'm Tova Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast. This is Riley, your co-host of the podcast, and today we have interview day. I wish I was like a little more peppy when I did that today. I yell out every time because I love our interviews. I love talking to people, as you all know. I love talking to all of you, even though you can't talk back to me. Maybe I love that even more. I don't know. But I am a little low energy and a little like scattered. Can anyone tell? I'm excited for our interview today. As everyone knows, season 10 is all about the how-tos and how to, everything from how to self-care to how to make a will. I suspect we're going to get there because we need to. It's everything you could think of that you might need to know about in order to live the life you want to be living, whatever that looks like for you. So it's been a great season so far. Today will be fantastic as well, I'm sure. Before we dive into our conversation, let me say hello to our other co-host here, Tova. How are you today, Tova? What's happening?
Hey, so I don't know. Today is one of those like nonstop days where my to-do list is significantly longer than the number of hours in the day.
Yeah.
But I think it all is going to happen because it has to. And but it's also one of those days where my kids this morning were like, "Where were those fidget spinners I got on Valentine's Day?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not the time for that. This is not that time. But also, I actually know where they are, so I'm going to give them to you.
Isn't that the worst? Where you're like, this is an inappropriate question to be asking me right now because we're trying to like walk out the door, but also here it is because I know exactly where it is. Oh,
And
that happens all the time.
So rarely do I know where the fidget spinners from Valentine's Day are, right? So I was like, yes, here they are. But also, you don't have time to put that bracelet on. And why did they even make that kind of bracelet?
Right.
I do. I'm so excited to talk to this guest for so many reasons. But before we get there, I do just want to say, because you're like, I'm low energy. In addition to a variety of things that are happening in both of our personal and professional lives, I just want to acknowledge. So today is the last episode that we are recording before Easter and my surgery next week. And I just want to say thank you to Riley officially on the air to everybody, because I think we have done 98 episodes in the month of March.
Yes.
And like you've definitely, I'm like, yes, no, I'm definitely going to do that. And you're like, okay, cool. But just in case, I'll do that too. Like picked up some slack because I've been also just running around prepping for this surgery. I was right last year when I was like, having only a week for surgery is super stressful, but also I know I can get nothing done. So I'm not even going to try. And I bet it would be way more stressful to have a couple months to prepare. I was right by that.
You were accurate in that statement.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you. And I hope you enjoy all of these podcasts. And if you're wondering why we're wearing turtlenecks when you're watching this podcast on YouTube in May, and you're like, but it's Memorial Day. Yeah, no, it's raining. It's 50 degrees and it's March right now.
Yeah.
But it's opening day baseball and we have a baseball fan on the phone. So that's exciting. Not you,
Yes.
Ryan. But
I was like, where?
But our guest. So I'm excited for guest day.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So I'm going to introduce her, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is one of my very, very, very good friends. I'm very excited to have her join us. We are super excited to have Christine Fitzgerald join us. Let me tell you a little bit about Christine before we say hello to her. After graduating from Seton Hall University, and receiving her Juris Doctorate from New York Law School, Christine served as a judicial law clerk to the Honorable Thomas Zampino, which is where I got to meet her, And then after her clerkship, she entered private practice, further honing her experience and legal skills at several prominent family law firms in Bergen, Hudson, and Morris counties before joining her current firm of Seton Family Law. Throughout her legal career, Christine has had many recognitions and accolades for her superior skills and determination, including, and I probably am not going to read them all because I want to talk to you more than I want to read about you, but like super lawyers, best lawyer in America's like list. I say the list part because I'm like, if somebody's not a lawyer, they'll be like, is she the best lawyer in America? I think she is, but also there is a list called the best lawyer in America,
Right.
best lawyers in America. She was honored in 2018 as Family Lawyer of the Year by the Hudson County Bar Association. And the New Jersey State Bar Association has recognized her efforts by awarding her a Distinguished Legislative Service Award in 2023 and 2024. She is a very active member of the legal community, and since 2021, she's been a member of the Family Law Executive Committee of the State Bar Association, where she currently serves as treasurer. She has been on a variety of subcommittees. She is involved in the Ethics Committee. And if you're thinking, are these really important? These committees are super important. They inform legislators and ethics committees and the people governing us hopefully will listen to them when they're making laws. Sometimes they do, sometimes they do not. Continuing to build upon her experience, in 2014, Christine graduated from the Family Law Trial Advocacy Program, which is a specialized matrimonial litigation training given by the American Bar Association's section of Family Law and National Institute of Trial Advocacy. I think that means we can call you an expert in family law, but you will tell us that later. But she has a vast amount of family law knowledge. She has spoken on it in a variety of places, and she's going to speak on it here in just a few moments. So with all that, she's also a mom of an adorable 3-year-old named Alexander. So with all of that, welcome, Christine.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
We are thrilled to have you on the show today. We've asked you to come on the show to talk a little bit about how to get a divorce, which obviously is a huge how-to for a lot of people and something that might, potentially change and transform lives. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty of all of that, I want our audience and myself, of course, to learn a little bit more about you and your journey and how you wound up where you are. We like to start out these interviews this season with asking you to tell us if you're here to talk about divorce and the law and all those things. Is there anything sort of hanging out there for you that you wish you knew how to do? Is there a how-to that you don't have like in your back pocket, or maybe one that you recently, developed that has made a big impact in your life that you would be willing to share with us about?
Sure. Well, we're going to be potty training my 3-year-old a little late this weekend. So I really wish I knew how to potty train. We're going to kind of wing it, which I don't know that was the best idea, but we're a little late, and I've been shamed a couple of times by the preschool about the fact that he's not potty trained, because he really is ready to be potty trained.
I will say that Daniel Tiger trained my daughter on very many things. And the Daniel Tiger potty song is like, we still sing it occasionally, just in jest, because she's 11. But it is
potty trained.
Yeah. It really did like make a massive difference for her. So I recommend it to everyone that I talk to. Daniel Tiger, also like social and emotional intelligence from Daniel Tiger is like unbelievable. So I can't say enough good things.
Definitely gonna look that up.
Yeah, about it.
And I don't want to interrupt, but
yeah, no, go.
Talking about a convergence of what we're talking about today, divorce and potty training, because I had a 3-year-old, plus a couple months when we were separating, and he was still in diapers because we just, we had other stuff happening.
Yeah.
And he was really like, he was my third. So maybe if we weren't getting a divorce, we would have not been paying attention. But he was really the one who came to me and was like, yeah, so I'm not going to wear diapers anymore. And like, I need to wear underpants, please. And then when he was ready, like, I was like, Yeah, no, I'm not dealing with wet sheets at night. Like, so I'm just going to keep you in pull-ups forever at night. And finally, he was like, yeah, my pull-ups have been dry for like a very long time, except that when like I pee in them in the morning because I'm too lazy to get out of bed. So I would like underwear all the time, please. Thank you. So there is a benefit, and I hope you have this luck of when you do wait a while to when the kid is very ready,
Yeah.
usually it goes way better.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long weekend.
You got this. It's gonna be okay. I think that's a great how-to though. A lot of parents out there on like, especially with your first child, you're just sort of winging it like
Totally.
90% of the time. Um, and so any how-to that like gives you like
Mhm.
practical tips is, in my opinion, is always welcome, unless it's shaming me in some way, in which case it can just go away.
Well, there's so much out there on the internet. It's hard to figure out what's really working, what's not working, and
Yeah.
some of it's kind of judgmental. So, I
Yeah.
think, I babysat a lot growing up, so, I was pretty familiar with kids in general, but, I never had to potty train a kid. I never had to bathe a kid. So,
Right.
those were things that I had to learn. I mean, the bathing I kind of figured out, although since now he only stands in the tub and screams the entire time, maybe I should have read something about bathing a kid. I don't know.
Nah, no, I don't know
Just
that
make
it
it
makes a
work.
difference at the end of the day.
Just make it
Um,
work.
right. So let's talk a little bit about your journey and like how you wound up where you are. I would love for you to share with us a little bit about some experiences in your life that brought you to becoming a lawyer and specifically becoming a family law lawyer. Like where is that coming from for you?
Yeah, so my journey, I think, is fairly unique. I knew from the start of law school that I wanted to do family law, which I don't know that a lot of people go into law school knowing what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know, growing up, I was a really poor student. I had some learning differences that, I didn't do very well in school, and people didn't think I was smart, and teachers didn't think I was smart. My third grade teacher told my mom I'd never be a scholar.
Oof.
Yeah.
Great teacher.
So, yeah, and my parents always knew I was smart, and they always told me I could do whatever I wanted to do. And, they also always told me that should be a lawyer because I would argue with them all the time about pretty much anything that I could argue with.
Yep.
So from a young age, I kind of always said, I'm going to be a lawyer because when you're young and you want to prove to everybody that you're smart, you think, I want to be something extraordinary. And, all you know about is lawyers and doctors at that point, right? Like you don't know about what an engineer is necessarily. I mean, now kids with YouTube and social media, they know a little bit more than we did back then. But so it was like, I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer. I don't really like blood, so doctor was clearly out of the picture pretty early. So it was lawyer from the start. When I went to college, I had one law class. It's like law, legal, something about entertainment law. And I really loved it. So I was like, okay, I could do this. I could do like entertainment law. And during college, I commuted part of the time. So I was also coaching swimming. I was a swimmer growing up and wound up coaching this team that I swam for. And I loved it. I mean, coaching was one of the best experiences I've ever had, and still keep in touch with a lot of my swimmers. But I loved working with the kids, and I just never wanted to be a teacher. So I was trying to figure out how do I integrate my love for working with kids and the law, which I really enjoyed as well. And I found that I really liked dealing with the parents, as nutty as they could sometimes be. But I had like a good knack for it. And a lot of the parents would come to me as opposed to some of the other coaches to talk about whatever issues they were having, because I was approachable. So I was like, okay, well, I like working with families. So initially, when I went to law school, I was like, I'm going to be a child advocate lawyer. Then I very quickly realized that I was going to be taking out a lot of student loans, and there was a hiring freeze in the state. So, that was really not going to be a possibility. And quite frankly, I don't know how I would have paid back those loans. So I started to say, okay, well, let's shift. Let's pivot and figure out what is the next, best idea. And I took a couple of divorce classes and I loved them. So I was like, you know what? I can help families by doing it right. and getting them through a really difficult situation as amicably as possible. I mean, the best divorces are the ones where the parties hug at the end. And that has happened.
Yeah.
Not often, but it does happen. So that's how I wound up here.
Well, and I mean, I know that maybe people don't always hug at the end, but you help people sort of chart a path so that, because a lot, it doesn't necessarily end right away. Like, how do I say it? Like, a divorce is one thing, but then you're often dealing with your clients, especially with those who have kids, for
Many
years.
years.
Yeah, many years.
Well,
And
your hope is that at the divorce, those parents already have the tools in place that they can navigate the parenting issues that come up amicably and between themselves, but that doesn't always happen. And yes, we do a lot of post-judgment work where we're, changing parenting schedules, we're figuring out medical decisions or trying to help them figure out medical decisions or extracurriculars or educational. And sometimes parents, there are two types of those, right? There's three, I guess. There's the ones that they just handle on their own and they amicably make decisions. There's the ones where they come to us because they need guidance, but they're not fighting. They're not, going toe to toe, head to head. It's just like, we have a difference of opinion. I respect your decision, your opinion, but I have this opinion. We can't bridge that gap. Can you either come up with a creative solution or help us, have somebody else make the decision, or put the right tools in the place so that, maybe a therapist makes the decision or helps them get to a decision. And then there's the ones where you just have to drag out fight. And those usually are ones that are constant, and you see a lot of litigation over time. It's always preferable to try to stay out of court when you can, but sometimes that's just not possible.
So let's talk a little bit about sort of your personal values, your belief systems, and how that impacts sort of how you became. I find your story of how you became a family lawyer fascinating because it's not linear to me, but I see it. But like, I don't know that other people would be like, oh, naturally, I really like working with kids. I'm going to become a family lawyer. I think people don't even realize, like, when you're a family lawyer, that you interact with kids in any way or you have anything to do with kids. I don't know why people don't realize that, but I do sense that that's the case. But how do how do your values come into play when you make the decision to go to law school, become a lawyer, and now as you're practicing, like, what are your values telling you?
Yeah. So first, I actually don't interact with kids very often. Maybe occasionally if I'm a guardian or a parent coordinator or something like that. But I'm still helping them and just
Yeah.
in a different way.
Yep.
So my values, I mean, I have always been somebody that's a little conflict averse, which is weird that I wanted to be a lawyer because, lawyering is a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
But there are ways to deal with the conflict without it being, like I said before, a drag out fight. So, that kind of approach, I think, led me partially like that value that I'm trying to do things amicably, to be kind. Kindness is a big thing. I talk about it with my 3-year-old every day. I always say, I don't really care what you are when you grow up. You can be whatever you want, just as long as you're kind.
Yeah.
So kindness, very ethical. They always make fun of me at the office. They're always like, Miss Ethics won't let us do this.
Really?
I'm
I'm
probably,
like happy that you do that. I think that's good. That's an
I think
attorney.
I probably take it maybe a little step too far
Yeah.
sometimes. But I found when I joined the ethics committee, I found that to be such a rewarding part of my practice. And
Yeah.
I've really taken it to heart. And so, to me, number one, it's fascinating. But also, it's important. You're both lawyers, trained lawyers, so you understand the law in a way that the general population doesn't. So they're coming in and listen, it's hard for lawyers to navigate the system. So can you imagine not even having any legal training, sometimes not even having any educational training, and then coming into the system? So it's important that we do things under the rules of professional conduct so that clients understand what the steps are and
Yeah.
what the procedure is.
Definitely. Tova, you were going to ask a question. Sorry.
Yeah, but I'm like going to go like way back. I'm
Okay.
going to go to third grade. Because it's, we've had quite a few people on this season, and I don't know if this was the expectation of that the season was going to take, but we've had a lot of people on this season and they were like, I struggled in school, or I was told that wasn't something that I could do. And or I was told that this was something that like I shouldn't do, or whatever the case might be. And so I I did it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And they did it for a variety of different reasons. And so when you were in third grade, and I've met your parents, and they're great. But like, were they, when your teacher was like, well, she's not going to be a scholar, like, how did they make sure, or did they make sure that you knew that if you heard something like that, or you had these experiences, that you weren't going to listen to that you weren't going to internalize that? And you were like, because it sounds like you were like, oh, that's what she thinks, cool, I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Like, it wasn't like, I'm gonna, like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to not be a scholar. It was like, I'm gonna be a lawyer. Like,
So my teacher didn't say that to me. She said it
right.
to my mother. I think they shielded me from it. I don't know that they talked to me about what the teachers were saying about me, I guess, kind of behind my back, as teachers do. My parents just always said, like, if I put my mind to it, I could do whatever I wanted to. And part of why I struggled in school was because I didn't put my mind to it. I mean, I just wasn't interested in school. I went from a district in Long Island that was not a great district. And so when I grew up in Chatham, New Jersey. And when I started in Chatham, which is a great school district, I was behind. I was behind from the start. So it was already a learning curve, and I wasn't necessarily the best student in my old school. So, then you jump in, and failure's hard. So sometimes it's easier to ignore it than to just keep going. And, really my wake up call was in high school. I, was getting ready to start applying to colleges, and I went to Fordham to interview. And that's, as soon as we pulled up to Fordham's gate, I said, this is the school I'm going to. And my mom's like, okay, sure. And so we went on a tour, and the woman who gave us the tour was a student, and she was fabulous. I mean, she was dynamic, and it was like the best tour I've ever had of anything I've ever gone to. And I went for the interview, and the interviewer was lovely, and she said, this is one of the best interviews I've ever had with a young student. She's like, but you're not going to Fordham. She's like, and frankly, you're going to have trouble getting into any school. And I went, excuse me? What do you mean? And she was like, your grades are really bad. And I said, well, I have to go to college. So how do I do that? And she said, well, you're going to really have to take senior year really seriously. And I did. And that was kind of the wake up call I needed. My mom always said, she knew I would get there when I was ready to get there. And if she pushed too much, that maybe I would, veer off the other way. So, she pushed me to the extent that she needed to, and then let me kind of find my own way. She was the same way. She wasn't a brilliant student, and, she's extraordinarily successful in what she does. So, she knew I would get there. We're very similar that way. So I guess between them just telling me over and over again that I was smart, I also was, I'm kind of this way still, like, kind of go through life happy-go-lucky. So, you kind of tune out the bad things. I knew my teachers didn't love me, but they didn't love me as a student, but they liked me as a person. So like, you don't see that when you're a kid. So
Yeah.
I was lucky, I guess.
Yeah. We need to take a quick break. So why don't we do that? And when we come back, I would love to hear a little more about like how you took that sort of, or how you take the grit that you developed, I think, over your childhood and your educational experiences, and how you use that now in your practice. So, but we'll take a quick break first, and we will be right back, everyone. Well, hey there, dream chaser. Are you ready to make the next 12 months of your life unforgettable? Introducing the Year of You, a groundbreaking new goal system group that's about to redefine the way we approach personal growth. Join us with a community of like-minded individuals committed to unlocking their full potential with expert guidance, personalized strategies, kind-hearted accountability, and a supportive network. The Year of You is more than just a goal-setting group. It's a whole movement. Don't just dream about it, achieve it. Click in the link in our show notes or go ahead and visit us at goboldlyinitiative.com/year of you to learn more today. Let's embark on a transformative journey together towards becoming the best versions we can be. The Year of You, where your goals become reality. Okay, so welcome back to the show. Before the break, we were talking about sort of, I would call it grit, like the determination to overcome what other people think about you and maybe some even self-perceptions and some lack of awareness possibly about what it would take to do what you wanted to do. And to turn that around, I think not everyone has that innate ability, that sort of grit to overcome or to fail and still like move on and do more. So I'm curious, I know you talked about your mom and like maybe you're very similar to her in this way, but like, is that something you were conscious of when it was happening, that this was like a determination that you had to like really change the way you were looking at things? Or was it just sort of you're like, I want to get into college and this is what I'm going to do?
I didn't want to disappoint anybody. My mom also says, teachers, of course, she told me this as an adult instead of when I was a child so that I could, change my behavior, that I was a people pleaser and that, I had a couple of teachers that were worried about me not being able to say no to things and, always wanting to do something to please somebody else. So I think there was like a real fear of disappointment, which is funny because my parents were never disappointed with me. So
Right.
I never, like, it didn't come from them. It was like inside of me.
Yep.
When I first started practicing family law, I cried every day. I mean, I hated it. I thought I'm in over my head. I can't believe I did this. I'm going to fail. I'm going to have to change careers and I'm going to be a failure. And I made a decision to go to a different firm that did a general practice. And we did largely family, but it was in Hudson County and it was a little bit of lower level practice in that, we didn't have, multi-million dollar clients. We had, your average day-to-day client. Not that that makes the cases any less difficult, but, it meant that I didn't have to learn what's, stocks were and how to divide them. And, like those types of things weren't as big of issues there. And the way that my mentors there practiced were different than the way that my mentors at the prior firm practiced. So it was like an easier, smoother ease into the practice of family law. And, that helped really develop my confidence. Also being a part of the Bar Association. I got involved in the Bar Association. The first firm I worked at was very big on the Bar Association. So I got involved from the day I started. And I made friendships there that I mean, my phone is blowing up. I can see it like lighting up, and it's with text messages from other family law attorneys. I mean, this is what we do all day long because we're actually real friends. We're not just colleagues. We're friends, and I loved them. And going to the Bar Association and hearing that other people also were feeling not confident, they were feeling like they were in over their head. They were feeling like this is really hard. I think also made me feel like, oh, wait, maybe this is not failing. This is just the step you have to get through. And I remember, I say this to young lawyers all the time. When I was 3 years out, I said, oh, I got this. And then when I was 5 years out, I was like, oh, thought I had it when I was 3 years out. Now I've got it. Then 7 years, I'm like, oh, God, if I only knew then what I knew now, and it just keeps continuing. And every few years, I think to myself, oh, now I've reached the top. And, then I reach a new top.
That sounds so much like parenting too, though. Like this,
totally.
the idea that you're like, oh, I'm so good at this. And then you're like, oh no, I'm not. And then a few years later, you're like,
no,
oh,
wait,
but
those are
no.
all the mistakes I made.
Yeah,
I was going to say, it
absolutely.
sounds like parenting, except that like Christine's actually like, yes, I am even better than I was before. And
Right. It's like in the
parenting.
reverse.
And yeah, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know anything. I still don't know anything.
Yeah. So it's absolutely true. I'm still figuring it all out.
Totally.
Tova, were you going to ask a question? Did I step? I keep stepping on your toes
no,
lately.
I have so many questions. And like, so, and I also, you know, so Christine, I probably know you the best out of anybody who's ever been on the show. So it's made it slightly more complicated because I'm filling in stories in my head. And I'm like, wait, did she say that? Or did I just
Basically knows
that
everything
story
about me.
in? Yeah, did I just make that up and fill it in?
Yeah.
Because I was, nodding along as you were like, I cried every day. And I was like, yes, she did. She did cry every single day.
You're like, I was there for that.
Yes.
Well, so let's talk about sort of the how-tos of divorce.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just say upfront, this is not legal advice. We're never giving you legal advice. Christine is not giving you legal advice. If you need legal advice, hire an attorney. So that's my disclaimer for today. I'll just throw in my other disclaimer that we always give: seek out therapy. It's wonderful. It helps. Do it. So those are my disclaimers before we really dive into the how-to of it all. And I guess the first question I want to ask, Christine, is what is like if you're thinking about divorce, like if it's on your mind, what is the first thing that you would recommend somebody do?
So funny, kind of like your disclaimer. The first thing I would suggest is have some sort of therapeutic plan. Have a therapist. You may not need to go to therapy every day. You may not need to go to it every week, maybe not even every month, but have someone there that can rely on, because at some point you're going to need, even if it's just for advice. How do I tell my spouse? How do I tell our kids? How do I tell my family? You're going to need somebody that has a therapeutic background, and it shouldn't be a friend. It should be somebody that's neutral, that, you have from a distance. So I would say that's the first step. Think about who you can trust in your inner circle. Who are your friends that you can rely on? Have a couple of them, because it does, I have clients that have, one friend, and, at the end of the divorce, that friend doesn't want to be friends with them anymore because it's been too much, right? So, have your group of people that you can rely on. And then the second one is also your disclaimer, which is go see an attorney. If you're even thinking about it, there is no harm in paying a small consultation fee to go meet with an attorney. Maybe if you're getting closer to doing it, maybe you meet with several attorneys, which is definitely one of my how-tos, but at least meet with one that you can understand what the process is, what the procedure is, what the law is, what the steps is that you need to do, because it's personalized, right? It's not like I can say today all the things that every single person should do. Every person's family and life and lifestyle is different. So there is no one set of how-tos. I mean, I can give some general ones today, and I'm going to, but, going to an attorney, and you should walk out of that consultation with a strategic approach of what you would want to do to get geared up.
Well, so I want to just highlight something that you said, a couple of things that you said, because I think initially people get turned off by paying for that initial consultation. They think it should be free. And I want to highlight that it should not be free, because lawyers have to work. They have billable hours. They have expectations. Even partners, like the head of the firms, they kind of keep track and figure out, how can we keep the lights on? How can we pay our staff? How can we do everything based on their billable hours? And so if they're spending an hour with you, they're not billing an hour somewhere else. But also, like you said, yes, you're going into that meeting to you're getting a vibe from the lawyer. You're trying to figure out, like, do we connect? But you're also learning a potential strategy, and you're learning about how they would approach your divorce. And so it is not a wasted hour of just getting to know you. Like real stuff is happening. So I want to highlight that, because I was very fortunate when I was going through my divorce, because I could just text Christine and say, tell me which lawyers I should pick from. And then we narrowed it down, and I was like, great, I can't make any decisions. Please pick my lawyer. And then she picked her and she's wonderful. And I'm very fortunate. And not everybody has that ability to, but so if you have to pay for 2 or 3, know that what's nice about it, even then, and I know divorce can be very expensive, is that you have the opportunity to learn different strategies and, and feel, who do I feel comfortable with? I think we talked about this when we were talking about how to pick a therapist. Just because a friend recommends somebody doesn't mean that you're going to feel comfortable with that person. So I know that like there are certain lawyers who are like free first consultation, and don't be drawn to that. And also, I mean, don't be not drawn to that, but know that you are getting something out of that initial consultation. So please don't feel like it's wasted money, and don't not go to a lawyer that you think you'd like because of that.
Yeah, so I have very strong opinions about this. I do charge for a consultation. I will tell you that I don't think any lawyer that I would use myself doesn't charge for a consultation. I think all of the ones that I respect, that I would say I'm going to use so and so, and there's a lot of them. I mean, I gave Tova, I think, 3 or 4 names, and then narrowed it down to the one that actually did happen. And she's wonderful, and she would be on my list of who I might choose for my divorce if I was there ever get divorced. Hopefully my husband Wayne won't be listening to this. There's a lot of attorneys that would be on my list, and as far as I understand, all of them do charge for a consultation, and you should be walking out of that consultation with knowledge. It's not just about me gathering the facts about you, although that is part of it. You should be also walking out of there with knowledge. The third thing I will say about it is that our obligations, both from a malpractice and from an ethical standpoint, start at the consultation. Actually, it starts before the consultation. So I'm putting my license on the line for that consultation. So yeah, I mean, you should pay for that. You don't, as far as the ones that don't charge, some you're not even meeting with a lawyer, from my understanding. You're meeting with like a staff person who's doing an intake. Some of them only do a half an hour. Mine isn't necessarily an hour. It's around an hour. Sometimes it's a little shorter. Sometimes it's a little longer. It just depends on what the issues are and how long it takes. I do try to keep some control over the consultation so that I can get the information I need, so that then I can impart the knowledge that you need, because that's all important for that. And then we do develop, I talk to you about your goals. What are the things that are most important to you? And here's some strategy ideas. At the end of the day, I'm going to give you what I think is the best strategy, but there are lots of options, which is why you may want to meet with several attorneys if you're, maybe not if you're just considering a divorce, but when you've made the decision, I would always recommend that you meet with several attorneys. You need to be able to feel comfortable. You need to be able to feel like you can tell the attorney that you're working with anything and everything, and I've heard everything. You need to make sure that your approaches align. Sometimes it might be that you actually need it not to align. So, I've had clients that say to me, I need you to be aggressive because I'm going to tell you, let's just settle. And I need you to tell me when not to do that. And that's what I have to do. So that's all important. If you're looking for an attorney and you don't have a Christine to ask who you should go to, you can look at the certified matrimonial list online. If you're a certified matrimonial attorney, you've taken an exam, you've been certified by the Supreme Court of New Jersey to say that that's the only time you can use the word expert, actually. Expert in the field of family law. You have submitted an application showing you have a certain amount of experience. You've had other people give reviews of you, judges and other lawyers. So, they know that you have a good reputation and that you're not a terrible attorney. You can look at the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, the New Jersey chapter. That's a national organization. You have to test, you have to have a certain level of reputation, same kind of concept, but on a national level. There's only a few of us that are in the academy. They're called fellows, which somebody told me was sexist. And I was like, oh my God, it is. It never even dawned on me how sexist that was. Yep. Until Bonnie Frost, this wonderful woman attorney who's a powerhouse, was like, that is so sexist. We should change the name. And I was like, oh my God, it is. So, that's another designation. There's about 48 of us, I think, that are fellows. So that would be another list that I could send you to. Call your professionals. Friends are hard to go by. It depends on who the friend is. If the friend is somebody that is a lawyer, a professional, has a high level of education, that might be a good person to ask, if they've gone through a divorce, what did they like about their attorneys? What didn't they like, but your financial advisor, your accountant, your therapist, if you had a real estate attorney, if you had an attorney do your will, some professional in your life is probably going to have a really good recommendation for you. So that's who I'd suggest. Do not just do Google.
Don't just throw a dart at the board.
I mean, it's just not a good way to find an attorney.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So talk to us a little bit about if you've decided it's time for a divorce, what kinds of things should you be doing other than obviously finding an attorney, and having a support system of some kind? What practical things do you need to gather up? What information, all that stuff? What do you need to do?
So even though it's 2024, a lot of people still have very traditional marriages, and not necessarily just, the man takes care of the finances. A lot of times it's actually the woman that takes care, but typically there's a lot of people that have one person that takes care of the finances and one person that worries about the children or whatever. If you're the person that doesn't know the finances, start kind of figuring it out. Start trying to figure out what you have, what you make, and make a list of it, and have an idea of what your expenses are, what your assets are, what your liabilities are, what the income is, because that's going to be really helpful for your attorney to put together a strategy. How are you going to pay for counsel fees? What do you need if he's going to, if the parties are going to separate? What do you need in order to have two homes instead of one? Because two homes are more expensive than one. That would be the number one thing that I think people come into the consultation not knowing is what is there. And listen, at some point you're going to find out. So if you can't figure it out, if you are in an abusive relationship, if you are, in a coercive control, it's a buzzword that I like and don't like, for various reasons, that kind of a relationship, you may not be able to do that. And that's okay. Number one, cut yourself a break. No one's perfect. No marriage is perfect. You're not necessarily going to know anything. And 90% of times somebody, man, woman, doesn't matter, non-binary person comes in and they said, I wish I had known that during a relationship, and they how did I not see this? Or how did I not know this? And that happens almost 90% of the time in cases. So you're just like everybody else. Nobody knows everything. So that would be the first step.
I want to highlight that real quick, and then I'll let you keep telling us what to do. But as attorneys, your attorney should not be judging you. So if you feel like you're sitting there you might be judging yourself, right? We all do that, and it's something we all need to work on, I'm sure. But you should not be sitting there in a consultation feeling like you're being judged for not knowing, for being in an abusive relationship, for whatever scenario is happening. You shouldn't feel judged, and you should be able to just be honest and transparent and say, this is what it is. I wish it wasn't, but it is. And I just wanted to highlight that because you said it, but I want to make sure people hear it really deep down, because I think that will keep people from going to an attorney, that fear of being judged or that fear of being embarrassed or being seen as naive in some way. I don't want that to keep people from doing the thing they need to be doing.
Yeah. So I always tell people before they come in for a consultation, kind of write down what your goals are, and your questions, because you're going to be nervous. So have a list of questions, have a list of goals, have a list of, big concepts that you may feel are important so that you don't forget them. Because it can be overwhelming. I'm asking you 1,000,001 questions. What's your birthday? What's your kid's birthday? What school do they go to? Or do they have any special need? You're asking 1,000,001 questions. It gets overwhelming after a while. So that's another tip I usually give people before they go in for a consultation. Something you said, domestic violence. So if you're in a domestic violence situation, you definitely want to have that therapeutic portion of it so that you have a safety plan in place. Know that in New Jersey, you can record as long as you can audio record as long as you are part of the conversation. It's a one-party consent, so you're the party consenting to the recording. If you're not in New Jersey, different states have different rules, so be careful of that. destroying evidence. Don't destroy it. If you have something, you know, there's an email that you don't like or a recording that makes you sound bad, you can't delete it. You have to preserve all of the evidence that you have. Last but not least, social media. Biggest mistake people make is putting stuff on social media when they're going through a divorce. And if you're about to start going through the process and you're in an abusive relationship, or you're in an emotionally abusive relationship, which is still an abusive relationship, but that's the physical one, I think, is an easier. People who are in a physically abusive relationship aren't going on social media posting happy-go-lucky thoughts normally, 90% of the time, but the emotional abusive ones, they're always putting on a happy face, and that's going to come back to hurt you. So stop posting. You know, if you don't want to, you know, number one, like, just stop posting. That's the best way to deal with it.
Yeah.
Be careful what you put on Facebook.
I mean, that's good advice for life.
Yeah, I mean, it's good advice for life.
Just think about what you're about to post.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, think about it this way too. If you have a calculating spouse, you know, think first that they might be recording you, you know, and, you know, make sure you're, you know, listen, you can't go through life thinking, oh my God, what did I just say? How should I respond? You know, of course not. But if you're in this kind of trajectory of going through a divorce and you have somebody that is not a good person on the other side, you know, be careful.
Yeah.
So those would be the biggest how-tos. You know, with your kids, you're going to want to have a plan. You're definitely going to want to talk to a therapist. I kind of already said that. You know, what's going to be the plan?
Right.
When someone is looking for an attorney, what do you think? And I know this is like a really personal opinion, but like, what do you think matters and what do you think doesn't? Because, and I ask this because we have been in a situation like, and I say we, Riley and I are, you know, we're in a bunch of different moms groups, and every once in a while it will pop up like, I have an attorney and I don't know if they understand what's happening because they don't have kids, or I don't know. And, you know, I know you practiced for a very long time without having kids and were an excellent attorney, and my attorney doesn't have children. And so to me, not having a kid is not a red flag at all. Having a conversation with them mattered. But are there things that people should kind of keep their eye out for and stay away from, or just things that in a positive way, like things that they should be looking for?
Yeah. So number one, I think I was a much better attorney before I had a child. Way better. I'm trying. I mean, it's the mom work life is hard. I haven't quite adjusted 100% yet.
Very hard.
I'm trying, and you know, most of my clients are still pretty happy with me, so that's good. But whether or not they have kids, I think is completely irrelevant. Before I had children, it would infuriate me, absolutely infuriate me when people would say that, because I have a number of friends that have kids, and I had nieces at the time that I love. And so, yes, you're right. I'm not parenting on a day-to-day, but you know what? I mean, even now as a parent, you know, I have clients that call me up and they want to complain about whatever their spouse or ex-spouse has done with the children, and it's the worst thing that's ever happened. And I'm thinking, well, I just gave my kid Fruit Loops this morning, so you know. So you know, it hasn't changed because I have kids now. I don't all of a sudden understand why Fruit Loops are so bad for kids in the morning. Fruit Loops are delicious. So that's definitely not a red flag. If you go to the consultation and they tell you basically everything that you want, you're going to get, and they can guarantee it, huge red flag, right? You want an attorney that's going to tell you the truth, that's going to tell you really what your realistic expectations are, because otherwise they're just looking to take your money. If you don't leave that consultation with any knowledge, and I mean more than just, okay, we're going to file a complaint for divorce. Your real true strategy. Now that strategy is going to change because 90% of the time client forgets to tell you half of the things at that consultation that are important. And then you're like, nope, wait, we got to change our strategy. Oh, wait, you have unreported cash, we're not filing in court. We're going to go to arbitration. So the strategy is going to change, but you should at least have a strategy when you leave that consultation. I always say in my consultations, and I believe this to be 100% true about my firm, which is different than a lot of firms, not every firm, but a lot of firms. We will work very hard to settle your case. And that's what you really want from an attorney, is to try to work hard to settle your case. We make less money, but that's what's usually 90% of the time best for the client, because studies show, supposedly, I don't know what studies, so I'm just quoting these studies that I don't know specifically about, that people who come to an agreement are more likely to comply with the terms if they feel like they've had a buy-in to it. So coming to an agreement saves you money. It saves you a lot of headache and stress, because going to court can be really scary and stressful. And you're more likely to live by those terms. So work really hard to settle your case. But you also want an attorney that's not scared to go into court and litigate, because in case you're that one case that needs to be litigated, they need to know how to try a case. Right. And listen, I'm definitely not the best trial lawyer in New Jersey, but I do know how to try a case, and I will work very hard to try to settle your case. And if we have to, we'll litigate. And litigation may just be a motion, it may be trial. It depends. Every case is a little different, but you got to have an attorney. I would say 90% of the time you want to have an attorney that can do both. There are attorneys that will be like, we're going to go right into court. I mean, is that always the best method? Unless there's an emergency that necessitates going right to court, it's usually best to say, let's see if we can mediate. Let's see if we can resolve this on our own.
Yeah.
That would be advice.
I feel like that's also good advice for life.
Yeah.
The
family law in life, same
right?
thing.
The less often you have to go to court over anything, the better.
Yes.
We need to take our last break. So why don't we do that? And when we come back, I'm sure we have a few more questions for you, and then we can wrap it up and let you go. But we will be right back, everyone.
Hey there, pod family. Have you ever wished you could stay in the loop with a little slice of transformation and inspiration delivered straight to your inbox? Well, you're in luck, because now you can. Introducing our fantastic newsletter, your VIP pass to all things exciting and informative. Join our community of growth-minded souls. Get the hottest topics delivered right to your inbox. It's quick, easy, and totally free. Just head over to our website at goboldlyinitiative.com and sign up for our newsletter today. Don't miss out on the next big thing. Stay connected with us. Subscribe now and get ready for some big, bold love.
Okay, so welcome back to the show. I am curious to know what you think, and this is obviously just your opinion, but what you think is sort of the biggest roadblock to seeking divorce other than finances, right? Like being able to pay for an attorney, I think is the biggest roadblock for most people. But like beyond fear of that, what is getting in the way of people seeking counsel and advice and help?
Yeah, I think there's three. In some cases, it's safety, whether or not they're safe to leave their spouse. Not that they're safe with their spouse, but the thought of what could happen if they leave their spouse safety-wise is they feel like they're, the push here, the, slap across the face there, the grabbing of the arm is better than being beaten, and they're worried about that. So that's one thing. I would say that's a small fraction for cases. I mean, domestic violence is way too prevalent, but I think if they say 1 in every 3 women will experience it at some point in their life. I would say it's probably less than that in their marriage, because once in their life, you generally people have more than one relationship. So the second thing is their kids. But what they don't know is kids want happy parents. They don't want married parents. Especially nowadays. We're in such a non-traditional. We're going into this non-traditional life, and kids don't care. I mean, half of their friends probably have parents that aren't married or divorced or never were married, or being raised by grandparents or aunts, so at this point, I think that's really important for your viewers or your viewers and listeners, to know that like kids don't want married parents. They want happy parents. And if you do it right, they'll be fine. And when they get older, it's definitely harder. The younger they are, it's probably the easier for the transition, because little kids transition pretty easily. And then the third thing is stigma. I can't believe I'm getting divorced. How am I going to tell my parents? How am I going to tell my friends? How am I going to tell my community? I would say those are the three big reasons. Other than finances. You're right. Finances are definitely probably the first.
I mean, finances get in the way of nearly every aspect of our life, right? Like,
Yes.
and so many folks are barely hanging on financially.
Mhm.
So being able to do anything really is just challenging. But that's another episode of sad conversation.
Well, my only advice for that is just pick and choose your battles. Let's not fight over blunders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and what you said earlier too about like learning to understand your finances. I mean, that's good advice whether you're getting a divorce or not. Like, unfortunately, I had a very good friend whose father died suddenly and very unexpectedly, and her mom had no understanding of their family finances. And so in addition to dealing with the grief, family had to navigate figuring out what was happening. And it wasn't anything bad was happening. There wasn't any negative family financing, but it was like, well, what's this password?
Another headache.
Yeah. And like what's automatically being paid and what's not, and all of these things that, if you can find them out, even if somebody doesn't, God forbid, die or divorce, but like somebody gets hurt or just things like that, like having more, I think, ownership of what's happening in your life and awareness is good advice all the time.
And for your listeners and viewers that aren't yet married, consider a prenup. It's a good way to know what everybody has when you get married. Not necessary, but I would say for most people, it's probably a good protection system. I know it's not romantic, but life's not really romantic. And if your life is really romantic, there's probably something that you don't know going on.
Something sneaking up on you. How fun.
Totally. And two, consider not, being involved. I mean, it's harder to get involved in your finance. It's not impossible, but, if you start saying, to your husband or to your wife, like, I need to know what's going on, that's gonna, they're going to automatically think like something's happening, right? Even when it's not. And they're not, that's a normal reaction for them to be like, why all of a sudden does she want to know what's in my 401k? Is she planning on going to get divorced? That's not a huge leap.
Right.
So, if you can get involved and, it doesn't mean you need to know every dollar being spent. I remember one time I saw I kept seeing these 99-cent charges. I never look at the bank account. And I kept seeing, but I was doing something and I was looking at it and I kept seeing these 99-cent charges. And I finally emailed my husband. I was like, I don't care why you have 99-cent charges, but what are these? He was playing a game on his phone and buying more lives. And I said, okay, well, listen, I don't care if you spend money, but you're not spending money on that. That's ridiculous. And likewise, he doesn't do that to me either. Right. He doesn't, he's not like, why did you buy a second pair of Ray-Bans? Well, I bought a pair of Ray-Bans and I immediately scratched them. So I bought a second pair now.
Right.
He has never figured that one out yet.
So we really better make sure he does not listen to this episode.
Yeah, right. He's not allowed to listen at all.
He definitely doesn't listen to podcasts.
Well, the other thing is we constantly have fraud. Like we have people stealing our credit cards all the time. Totally. So you've got to be. You got to be able to pay attention.
Yeah.
I linked it to a gas station, so it's stopped now. But anyway, so before we get on to our quick response questions, Tova, do you have anything you want to ask before I
did just want to ask one more question. Yeah. I wanted to know, I like hearing your journey because I find it really interesting, and I like how I listen to your story. I get to listen to your stories on a fairly regular basis, and you do bring, I think, the same personality that was probably approachable to those parents when you were a swim coach. You bring to this family law, and I think it's really, really important that people have someone in their lives that they can talk to. Like you said, Riley, you don't want to be judged by your attorney because you're going to be doing plenty of judging of yourself. Don't worry. So I just wondered, one more question is when you were going on this whole path, like what is one decision that you're just really glad you made? You know, whether it was the college you chose or the certificate, just anything that you've done. What is something that you're just really glad you did as part of your journey?
Joining the State Bar Association. I think it is the best thing that I've done other than having my Alexander in my life. It's such a resource, for those lawyers listeners out there. And if I don't know if either of you are members of the Bar Association, I know you're not practicing, but I think you can still be members. They have a wealth of resources. We recently I sat on a Putting Lawyers First task force where we looked at all the areas that lawyers are struggling, because lawyers are struggling, and it's a struggle every day for a lot of us. And so we looked at all the areas that really stress lawyers out. And, one of it was mental health. Lawyers' suicide rates are through the roof. Every day, not every day, but very often we're hearing about another lawyer that has died by suicide, and it's very sad. And Geraldine Lawrence, who was the president of the Bar Association, really put together this task force, and we looked at the mental health, and they did a survey, and I can't even talk about the rates that they found on this survey because I will start crying because it's so upsetting to me. But one of the things that came of results of it was that they're now offering free therapeutic services through the Bar Association. You or any family member of your household can call, and you'll get I think it's virtual or by telephone, therapeutic appointment with the therapy group that we've contracted with, or the Bar Association contracted with. And then at some point they set you up with you can be set up with a therapist as well. And I'm not sure where the payments start, but it's free initially, at least 3 a year initial. And that's just such a great resource. And I'm so proud to be a member of that Bar Association. I'm going to get choked up.
Well, and if you're not a lawyer, a lot of professional organizations have associations or communities. I mean, I think, if you are a lawyer, join the Bar Association if you have a great one. But I mean, if you're not, there's so many great organizations that you can join because of your job or because of your community that can give you some support and enhance your life. So
yeah. And I just want to say, like, as a non-practicing attorney, it's lovely to talk to a practicing attorney who clearly loves the profession and loves the law. And I mean, Tova loves the law too. So it's always fun to talk to her about her understanding of research and stuff. I did not enjoy law school. There were parts of it I enjoyed, and looking back, I recognize that. But it's nice to hear someone speaking positively about their professional career. And so I just wanted to highlight that and say I really appreciate your like, you nerd out over it in like the best way. And
I totally do.
And when somebody is joyous about what they do, it shines through, and it's a lovely thing to experience. So I really do appreciate that about your journey. So we do need to wrap up, but let's do our 5 quick response questions if you're up for it, Christine.
I feel like I'm on Inside the Actor Studio.
Yeah, exactly. That's how cool we are.
Obviously.
All right. So our first question for you is, what do you do when you first get up in the morning?
Usually I go into Alexander's bedroom because he's screaming for usually daddy, but then he gets disappointed by me.
Oh, kids are the best. Number 2, what is your favorite movie?
So my favorite movie, I have 2 answers for that. I have like the guilty pleasure, which is Back to the Future. I love that movie. Can quote every single line of it. I probably could do it right now. And then my favorite, like more like serious movie is Lion, which is, a lot of people haven't heard of, but it's a really wonderful movie. I cried from literally the second minute of it till the very end and then past it. But it's a really beautiful movie.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up. Number 3, what is in your purse?
Oh God. So usually my laptop, but my laptop's on my desk right now. Probably a lot of pens, some reading glasses, because I recently had to start wearing reading glasses. So I just have them everywhere. probably, so I have like a business card holder that I keep my credit cards and stuff in, and my license. And then I have probably credit cards spewed about the bottom of my purse too. Tova knows I lose everything. So, yeah, my purse is a mess. Probably some paper clips, random stuff.
Binder
Maybe
clips.
A whiteout pen.
Nice. Okay, number 4. Who was your teen heartthrob or crush?
Oh, Zach Morris.
Yes.
Not Mark Proglasser, Zach Morris.
Yeah. No pause there. Number 5. What is the best piece of advice you have received?
I mean, I think I've received it from so many people, but it's advice I give to people too, which is stop being so hard on yourself. Like, cut yourself a break. It's advice I give on a regular basis and I hear on a regular basis. I mean, I'm still talking about the real estate deal in 2010 that I made a small mistake on, so it delayed the closing by 3 weeks. And every time I see that, the attorney I worked with at the time, I talk about it, and she's like, "It's 2024, get over it."
Yeah.
So mistakes happen, and everybody needs to just kind of give yourself. My friend Lindsay, who Tova and I clerked with, always says, "Give yourself a little grace."
Yeah,
and I think that's a really good advice.
It's very good advice for life, and also very hard to apply as a perfectionist. But
Totally.
We can all work towards it, right? We can be perfect at applying this grace period to ourselves.
To be our goal. Be perfect at giving ourselves grace.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure speaking with you and just hearing more about your story and great advice, honestly, things that I hadn't thought about, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers, etc., hadn't thought about as well. So we really, really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so if people want to find you or reach out to you, or, if somebody's in New Jersey and they need an attorney, where can they find you on like social media, internets, wherever?
Yeah. So on my social media is private. So we have our firm social media, which is, I think, at Seton Family Law. You can go to setonfamilylaw.com. My work phone number is 908-324-5400. Those are the best ways to reach out to me.
Great. All right. So we'll share that for everyone in the show notes and in social media as well, so that people can find you if they need an attorney or have questions or whatever. And I think that's it for today, Tova, unless you have something else to add.
No, that's it. Excited.
Just a hard no. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining us today. We will be back next week with another how-to in figuring out, I don't know, what should your life look like for you? What's going to bring you ease and peace and joy? If you have how-tos that you want to hear, if you want us to research for you and share on the show, which we love to do, let us know. You can find us on social media at Go Boldly Together, and we would love to hear from you. Until next week, everyone, be happy, be well, and we will talk to you all soon.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.